We are super excited, are we not? First episode in our new studio, and we're about to rock and roll. Guys, this is going to be an awesome episode. It's technically episode 15, but episode 1 of our new season. So you are our honorary guest, for the Xtra Mile Podcast to kick off the new season.
I'm just honored, man. That was really nice that you did that for that charity that accepted me to come in and be on. That you were doing a charity case for me.
Yeah.
That's the only way you get
I'm
me
a charitable guy. No.
Nice
it's our pleasure. It's our honor. Let's get started. Let's get the intro going, and then we will get into episode 15.
Your success is on the other side of your comfort zone. See, that's the difference between me and those other guys. I wanted it more than they did. I wanted it enough to get uncomfortable. I wanted it enough to go the extra mile. Do you want it bad enough? Do you want it bad enough to go the extra mile?
All right, guys, we are into episode 15 of the Xtra Mile Podcast. I am super excited to get going again because we want to bring you guys value. We want to bring you value so that you guys see how entrepreneurs have learned their lesson along the way. I'm going to be learning with you guys, and we are ready to rock and roll. But today, we've got a special guest, and I want to tell you guys real quick how I met this young man. We were rocking on Clubhouse, and if for those of you who don't know what Clubhouse is, get on it. It's dope. And this guy was just dropping bomb after bomb on there, just dropping some fire. And I was like, man, I want to connect with this guy. So we end up connecting. We're on a Zoom call, and we're about 30 minutes into the Zoom call. And I'm like, yo, bro, where are you, right? And he's like, I'm in Delaware. I was like, bro, what? I'm in Delaware. So we're 30 minutes into a Zoom call thinking we're connecting across the country. And little did I know, this guy is right here in Delaware. So, of course, we've connected, and here he is on our podcast. Mike Fabber, man, my guy. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, man. Go into, a little brief bio, and then I'm going to ask some questions to dig a little bit deeper on all of it.
Cool, brother. One, thank you for having me. It was crazy thinking that we were so close, and I thought we were forever away. All right. And then just to find out, I drive by where you are, like your million offices. I was at the wrong one multiple times today. Right. It's just finding like that person that's successful, killing it 30 minutes from me. I was just like, how did I not already know about this dude and try to find a way in? But now we're here talking. So thank you so much, man. You and your team are awesome. I love being here. A little bit about me. I have multiple businesses because I found out less time I have, less trouble I get in, which is an awesome thing. I like my life that way. So we have a bunch of different businesses. I hate saying serialpreneur, like I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm like, I thought cereal was bad, right? Yeah, I thought if I was a cereal, it was something that was either I was going to get eaten or I was going to be away for a long time. So I was like, I just have a lot of businesses. I love impacting people, being involved with people, connecting with people, especially at deeper levels now, especially. So that's about me in a nutshell. I try not to say too much early because I really want to save those 3 bombs that you heard on Clubhouse for later in the podcast, because I only got 3, so I got to save them. But I just love business and people, man. So I try to do those every day.
I love it. It's humble. This guy used the word bomb and cereal in a few ways there that might get us all in trouble, but we're going to rock with it. And he's being humble because he has way more than those 3 bombs, but we're going to go into it here. What's really awesome is like attracts like, right? So like immediately we were in the same rooms, and I'm like, man, this is dope. Clubhouse has been a great experience anyway. It's been really great to be able to chat, meet with new people all over the place. My inbox is going crazy, and I never even used my Instagram inbox before. So now it's like I gotta learn how to navigate and communicate on another platform. But it's been great, man. And one of the things that I love doing is meeting new people to hear their story. I think that's the one thing that makes us all an individual and unique, because you can meet somebody who you just be like, okay, this person is just an average person, and then they tell you their story and you're like, holy shit, what a journey they've been on. And so it's been really crazy, and that's one of the great things about hosting a podcast like this, because you get to learn from so many people and their story as well. So we're gonna talk a little bit. We're gonna dive a little bit deeper into what brought you to where you're at today. But tell everybody like what you're mainly doing today. Like what is the most? What are you doing the most of these days? So that we know who we're talking to and what we're talking to as far as an expert goes.
All right. It's funny. I was sitting outside before I came in. I was on a Zoom call with someone I met on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
And he was like, before I talked to you, man, I thought you were like a squirrel hunter from West Virginia. He said, how do you have a beard like that and do what you do? I was like, well, it's COVID, man. No one, barely anybody sees me, right? But it's funny. You really don't know someone until you hear their story and you're like, wow, this dude's so dope, right? Like that's so cool. Like they're cool as shit. So Right now, I do most of my day spent with Unleash You Now. Like, that's my baby love. That's my pride. That's my movement, right? That's not even, I don't even look at that as a business. Like, that's my purpose. So, and what we do is like, we really want to unleash. We believe everybody, like, your story is your masterpiece. Like that's your superpower, right?
I love that.
Because you got that, you alone. And we can't have our superpower until we own our shit, right?
100%.
And for so long, I didn't own my shit. And that's why I didn't have a superpower, right? So I was trying to find it, trying to figure it out, getting in trouble while doing it, doing dumb stuff, trying to fill that hole that I had because I didn't have that thing.
Right.
Right? Until I figured out that thing was my story. Because I'm the only one that went through what I went through, the way I went through it, at the time I went through it, right? Yeah. So like we have things in common, right? We both have something in common, but just because we have that in common doesn't mean we went through it the same.
Right.
Right.
100%.
Doesn't make it ours.
Yeah.
Right. We each have our own. We just have that common ground we can stand on and respect out of it.
Right.
Right. So Unleash You Now is all about like unlocking us from all that BS, right? All that bullshit we believe, right? Society, like family traditions, right? Culture, right? Like systematic beliefs that we have that just stick us in
all
the
the
spot.
bullshit we were
Right.
fed.
Right. It's like, listen, if you want to work 40 years and get a gold watch for your time, cool. Right? Like, that's not my thing.
Yeah,
right?
it ain't for me.
That's not my thing. And it's like, we were bred to think that like having a mortgage on a white picket fence was winning. Like, that was winning. And I was like, that was crazy to me. And when I got older, I was like, this is dumb. Like, I don't want that.
Right.
So it was like an outcast because you didn't fall into that the way the system wanted us to think, right? So to me, it's like, get all that out of the way and like live your life the way you want to. Now, if you want to do that, cool, I respect.
Right. Yeah.
Like, if that's your thing.
That's your shit.
Yeah. So like me, I just want us all living our thing, creating our masterpiece, because that inspires others to do the same and do theirs. If we're all doing that, life's better for all of us.
Man, I love that too, because man, I'm telling you, once I realized like what was on the other side of my comfort zone and what was on the other side of the norms of society, like I then wanted to force that on everybody, like even, like especially like my family and friends. And then I learned like this isn't for everybody, right? And it's also okay for people that want that and that alone. And I said, okay, all right, I got to remember that this is about self-awareness. I want what I want. That doesn't mean that everybody is going to. So I had to, kind of like humble myself a little bit, even though my intention was good. I had to make sure that I understood that, we're individuals. Like we've already said, like we got to let people navigate their own path.
Right. I just want to bring attention to
go
what you said,
ahead.
because you said it's so easy, but it's so freaking hard.
Yeah.
Understanding that no matter how bad you want it for someone, they got to want it.
100%.
Right. You said it's just like we got to live our life, let's stay in our lane. But it's super hard when you really care and love somebody and want them along for the journey, or they were with you at a certain point, to have to like say, I got to stop, right? Yep. Because this isn't going to serve either of us. It's going to make things worse. So like you got to do your thing, all respect and love. I got to go do my thing, all respect and love.
Right.
Right.
Right. Dude, I'm so hyped too. Like I didn't realize like there was like to this level that there was somebody close to me that was on the same mindset. So I want to talk about that because, all right, look, you are where you are today, right? And you're crushing it. I'm looking forward to being a part of it, right? Yeah. Like I'm excited about that. But let's talk about the trip there, right? The journey of it. Oh man, like you talked about like the journey and the stories and how that makes us all unique and all those things. But what's super crazy is like somebody could have mirrored lives, right? Like one could have gone through the exact same thing as the other, right? But one of them be impacted by the trauma more than the other. Mm-hmm. So I stopped, like, you've heard my story and stuff like that, but we're in a one-up society where people are like, oh, well, compared to my life, your life, that's not how this is supposed to work, my man. They could have had, a bad Christmas at 9 years old and it impacted them in a very traumatic way where years of child abuse might not have impacted somebody the same way. Like it's about the way we identify with our own traumas. So I say all that to say, like, I want to know and be familiar with the story up, and I want these people listening to know where you came from, how it all worked out.
Right?
Yes. Let's dive in, baby.
The Forged by Fire part.
Yes, sir.
Right? Because it wasn't like this. And I love what you said, like, hard's hard. Right? Like, when we started to compare stories, like, the chemical that's released when you're going through whatever it is you're going through is the same chemical.
Right.
So I can't identify and be like, well, no, hold up. Right? Now, I could say, like, oh, that had to be tough. Right?
100%.
Like, that had to be freaking hard, bro. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
Right? But at no point can I lessen someone's hard because that was their hard. Right? Like, there's people that had what we would go and be like, damn, that's a nice life.
Yeah.
And they're like, you don't understand the pressure of having to get like Harvard grades.
100%.
Right? And it's like,
100%.
all right, but you're right. I don't understand that. And that stress, that chemical is the same chemical for both of us.
Yeah.
Right? So what's hard for one is hard for them, right? That we can't belittle their hard. right? Just be like, well, my hard was harder.
Right.
Okay.
Nah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's when we're not comfortable yet being us.
Yeah. Right.
It's like we
Because we're dealing with our own insecurities and
Right,
shit that,
right.
you know, so we got to talk a certain way, act a certain way, one up the other people.
Right.
We can't empathize.
Right. We want that attention.
Yeah.
Poor me.
Yep,
Right. Poor me.
exactly.
There was a long time I played the victim. I wanted people to say, poor me, hard life, man.
I lived in that victim role.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, but where I came from, bro, I was born deaf. Isn't that weird? Like,
No
Yeah, I was
way.
born deaf. I didn't have the ability to hear. Right. Like few people I ever
What
talked at,
the
but like,
fuck?
yeah, I was born without the ability to hear. I didn't get my hearing. I always say like I didn't learn the skill of hearing. Right. I didn't know it was a skill. I thought it was just ability. But no, I didn't get the ability to hear until I was like 3 years old, over 3 years old. So I didn't learn how to talk until I was like 5.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That's
and people always
wild,
like,
man.
some people are like, why don't you tell that part of your story? And then some people ask, why do I? And it's always like, it's because that started something that mentally stayed with me for a long, long time.
Yeah, right.
Right. And I was always behind.
And you weren't even aware of what it was going to do until years later, right?
It's like I didn't even figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, why was that always important to me? Why did I always stick in my head? And it's because like that was the thing that always made me think I had to show someone I was worthy.
Right.
Right. Like I had to prove something. Right.
So-
So for most of my life, I was trying to prove people wrong. Like I was trying to prove what I was. Right. And it came up in different ways. So I came from a family, a lot of military. Right. So there was no excuses. Just because I didn't know how to hear and then learn how to talk at 5, I still started school with everybody else.
Right.
Everybody else like having full sentences, conversations. I'm over here like, hey,
Oh, shit.
right? Like
Yeah.
they're like, what?
Like Apple?
Right? Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Like, I'm trying to sound out the alphabet, and people are over here like having real stuff, picking friend groups and stuff, and I'm
Right.
over here like, right? And I have 3 older brothers, 2 older sisters, so I was beat up an awful lot already, right? Because I'm the youngest, so it was like you had to learn, right? So it was always I failed 3rd grade. Right, like who fails 3rd grade? Like I didn't know you could literally fail there.
Yeah,
Like, I
what do you
thought they
just not show up for
right,
that?
Like,
Like,
yeah, that's like I'm like
yeah.
I thought they just let everybody go. Like as long as you're not like a real dickhead.
That was
you get
before the
together
No
next
Kid
month.
Left Behind program.
Right? Damn it! They always called the cool stuff after me. Right?
Yeah.
But so I failed 3rd grade because I couldn't read or write like everybody else. And then 5th grade, I'm walking back to 3rd grade, taking English and reading classes. All right, so I'm getting in
Wow.
fights all the time because of that, because I'm the dumb kid, right?
Right.
So I'm like, oh, I might be the dumb kid, but I can also punch good, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like my brother
Spent
showed
all
me
this
how to
time
do
learning
this.
how to perfect this right hook.
Right, yeah, right. I'm a lefty, but yeah. If I
Okay.
hit my right, you won't even know I hit you. You'd be like, damn, window open? Like, so the then when life really started to like go the way that would mess with someone mentally was when I was 10 years old. My brother died. My
man.
brother's one of the 22 you hear a day that took his own life after serving the country. And I didn't know what hurt was.
How old was he then?
He was 20.
He was 20.
All right.
Shit, man.
So I didn't know how to deal with hurt because men weren't hurt, right? We were mad, right? That was an easy emotion, right? Go to the secondary emotion. I was angry.
Yeah, who
Like
did
I
this?
was, right? I was mad at everybody. Like, oh no, like you think you can hurt me? No, I'll hurt you, right? And I couldn't express it. Well, then life continues and just weird things happen, man, right? Like the mentor I had in middle school that was in high school, he got cancer and passed away. When I was in high school, I dared a buddy. I said, you want to be able to roll with us? You got to go take a car. Well, he took the car, died in an accident after taking the car.
Oh my god.
So then I feel guilt and hurt, right? I don't know how to deal. So I'm getting in and out of trouble. I'm in and out like juvie situations, court, all right? Just trouble after trouble, right? Drugs. I'm in the scene. You know the scene. I'm in the scene.
Right.
So it's just that scene. It's that life. It's because I couldn't express my hurt or pain. I couldn't tell you. So I wanted you to feel it.
Right.
Right. So we had to feel one another. So then I felt like I was real, like I mattered, like my voice was heard because I didn't know how to voice it.
Mm.
So my dad dies when I'm a teenager in high school, or just after high school, right? So it was just one thing after another, man, until 20 years old.
I see, bro.
And 20 years old, it was like that moment where it's like you realize you're in some deep shit, right? Like
Yeah.
you realize it went further than you wanted to go in the scene. You
Mhm.
just didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
All right. So in 1 week, I beat my last case. I was facing over. Now you know how this goes. So I was facing over 20 years. You're never going to get that, but I was facing over 20 years.
Right.
So they just try to pile it on to scare the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they pile on the years like you're gonna cop to something, buddy. Right. And I'm in court for like 2.5 years over this because what they were trying to get me for was a whole setup thing. But whatever, that's not important. So that week I beat my last case. That was the last case I got. I beat that last case. I'm like, oh my god. Whew, right. I get shot at, and I'm like, oh my god. Right. 15-year-old kid. Outside of the Diamond Club, good things happen at the Diamond Club. I'll even say the scene. It was outside the Diamond Club, man. The only reason I'm here today is because the owner of that club was named Neil.
Yeah.
And that dude saved my ass that day.
Really?
All right. He made it where it was possible for me to get out of there. And that was huge. So I give him a lot of credit still, even though he probably doesn't want me to. And then I find out I'm going to be a dad. Right. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to be dead or in jail for my daughter, right? Like I lost my dad when I was a teenager or whatever. I've experienced so much loss. I don't want to be lost for her, right? Like I want to be there. I want to be dead.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Like this is one area I haven't screwed up yet. You know what I'm saying? Like in a life where I screwed up so much, I haven't screwed up that area yet. So I'm like, now she's 17. I screwed up all times. But she would tell you. But at that time, I didn't screw up yet. So I was like, I got to change up my life. Like it's me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yo, I'm going to move down. I'm going to open up a restaurant with my brother in like Maryland, actually. We were thinking about Ocean City.
Okay.
And I got stuck in Delaware in a snowstorm. Never left. I was like, yo, to get in trouble in Delaware, you really got to, I mean, no offense, but you really got to push, right?
Shoot, they say, what do they say? What's the saying in
Come on
Delaware?
Vacation, leave on probation.
Yeah, come back on a violation.
Right, definitely in Dewey, right?
Yeah.
But the like Delaware, I didn't know anybody, no one knew me. Like it was a fresh start.
Yeah.
Right? Like I didn't have, like I give you a ton of credit because to stay up in the mix,
like
that's tough.
It is, man.
Like, that's a respecting.
But no, I get the reset button though too, bro. I get that. Because also like I was given that miracle moment to transition and like I was able to, but you know, a little bit of difference in circumstances and it may not have worked out the way it did, you know? So if I was somewhere else where I could have hit reset, it would have been a little bit, maybe even a little bit easier for me or you know what I mean? So, or even could be a little bit harder, who knows? Cause I still have relationships that have followed me for a lifetime here. So, you know, there's good and bad with it all, right? So like, who knows? But the clear thing is that hitting that reset button was a good thing in the direction of way things were going for you.
Right. Definitely. Because here's the deal. Like, that's why I give you so much credit is because you can do a whole bunch of things, but the people around you don't have to.
Right.
Right. They still look at you like you're that guy. Right. Like I go back to Northeast PA or the place I got in trouble in New York. I'm still that guy.
100%.
Right? Like no matter how much I've done since then, I'm still that dude.
Yep.
Right? People still have a problem with me because I was that guy, right? Like there's still sides of fences that people are on.
Did you have the beard then?
No.
Okay.
I had a chin strap.
Okay.
I
might not recognize you now, but
true story. I had facial hair since I was 17. I had like a chin strap and I had like the full man thing. Like I always did something. This is relatively newer. But it's fresh though.
Yeah, I like it, man. We got some beards over at Brightside now, and we got some guys that have like our whole production team for some reason. And that was not a rule. By the way, if you're listening and you want to work for us, you do not have to have a beard. I want people to know this. Like,
I don't believe it. I know you're saying it, but I think that's saving your ass in court papers. Like, you can't make people have it, but if you want to work here.
Oh, shit.
But you know what's crazy is like that still didn't change me though.
Yeah.
Right? Like when I came here, I was the same dude.
Right.
I was just a business guy now.
Yeah, right.
Right? Like I had a bar and restaurant. I was business.
Right. But if somebody does you wrong, like you want to respond in the same way. And
I was chasing dude down Rehoboth Avenue with a pool stick.
Oh shit!
All right, from back in the day, Irish Eyes, when they had that one pool table back in the back.
Yeah.
Me and my boy Willie came down, and we were like, I'm just like, this is why I can't hang out with you guys. But really, like the game changer in my life, where I really figured out I was really like I had to work through me shit.
Yeah.
That was in 2011. That wasn't even that long ago. A little over 10 years. That's when one of my best friends took his own life, and I was called before he did it.
Man, you really experienced a lot of death, Mike. Like all around you, my man. So
I feel like for a long time I thought it was a curse, bro. I was just like, don't get close to me, bad things happen.
Yeah, that's crazy. But what's ironic about that is it was a life that brought you back, you know what I mean, to where you needed to go. The birth of your daughter is what like hit reset for you, and then the relocation. So it's kind of wild, but the balance is always there one way or the other. It's wild. So go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
No worries. I love this. This is what it's about. Literally, my daughter saved my life twice before she even was old enough to know she saved my life. Because 2011, I was going to end my own. I was sitting on Lewis Beach with a gun in my mouth. It was go time. It was over. Like I was like, everything I built was fake. Right? Like I felt like a huge fraud. Like, and that's a horrible feeling. Like that you're just completely BS. Your whole life, everything you did, everything you were about, bullshit. You say you're a man's man. Where were you when your boys needed you? Where were you when your people needed you? Right? It's like then I'm like, dude, I'm worthless. Right? Like I'm bum. So someone said, you just need to find yourself. It's the best advice I ever got. No, I'm kidding. All right. So I'm like, oh my God, you're right. I'm hiding somewhere.
Start looking in the sand around you.
Right? I'm like going behind trees, like, Mike, come on, Mike. Where you at? Right? Picking up rocks. Michael, no? All right. So it was ridiculous. I set on this journey to go find myself, right? And led me to like Mobile, Alabama, which is like the Mobile Inn.
Forrest Gump, right?
Oh my God, right? Like, dude, if you ever want to go to a place that you never want to go to again, go to the Mobile Inn.
Yeah.
Oh God, at least then. It was God awful. Like it was the worst. It was like they took like trailers and put them in like sections of 4s, it was like one bathroom in the middle and you had to walk through the other people's shit to go. Not literal. You had to walk through their room to go to it. It was real. It was crazy. Like to make that where that was legal then, I was just like, I don't understand how this is legal.
Yeah.
Right. But I was sitting in the Mobile Inn and I realized like, dude, for the first 20 years of my life, I was the villain, bro.
Right.
Like I was the bad guy. And for myself and others, for everyone I cared about and other people and myself. And then I was the worst. I was the damsel in distress, man. I was waiting for someone to save me.
Oh, man, that victim mentality. I'll do that every single time, man.
I was like,
just waiting for a hero, right?
That's why I grew my beard, so someone could climb up and get me out of the... I already stole that movie. But it was just that idea. And then I was just like, all right, so if I created those two people, who do I want to create? Like, who do I want to be about? And I remember a line a basketball coach told me once. He said, Mike, man, anybody ever breathe easier because you existed? All right? And the crazy part, the answer was no. So I was like, fuck. What kind of life, like, what am I doing? So I said from that day on, every day someone's going to breathe easier because me, I don't care what it is. I got to do something to make someone breathe easier because I existed. And that's what sent me down the journey to different businesses and trying to impact people's life and things like that.
That's insane, man. That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, as you explained your story, I'm like, oh, wow, that's a lot. And then you just keep piling it on top of it. I'm like, man, those are places where people don't return from. You know what I mean? Like, and that the fact that you're here and the fact that you're not only here and living a successful life, quotation marks, but, you're impacting so many others. And that's what's so huge, man. Like my true, and it may change over the years, but my definition of success today is the degree of impact that I can have on others.
Love that.
And so, because, like there's no reason for us to be guilty about making money, because as we make more money, the more people we're going to be able to help.
Right.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Now you're in a spot where you're really helping people quite often. What is like some of the like common things that you're seeing from the people that you're working with on what's holding them back? Like what's probably the number one thing that you see as you're working with other people that's holding them back from just taking the next step and getting into the next spot?
All right, you really want me to be unpopular. Number one thing that holds everybody back is themselves.
Yeah.
Right. Like we're our biggest enemy. Right. And normally I would go to what's the ignition mindset, right? You can't start a good journey if you can't start right.
Right.
So it's always like, let's check our mindset. How far are we? I remember I told you before, there was businesses where we created 6-7 figure and I would destroy it.
Yeah.
Because my mindset wasn't there that I could handle something like that.
Yeah. I ran my first one pretty badly too.
Right?
Yeah. I got out before the crash and burn, but
so I say at some point you got to pull the chute. Right. But
yeah.
So I always go mindset. To me, is mindset the biggest thing. Like when I talk to someone, I really want to gauge their mindset because that shows me what category we're going to fall in together. Right?
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier today in one of our Master Networks meetings. We were talking about like blocking out, like not just blocking out time, prioritizing, basically a lot of time management discussion. But the point was like, at the end of this thing called life, right, we're going to look back and we're going to think about what we did, how we did it, right? And if your day-to-day decisions aren't based on that as a the end game, then are you making the right decisions each day? And Zig Ziglar said, what was it? I'd rather be a meaningful specific than a wandering generality, right? So like every single day should be lived with intention, should be lived with a purpose. And in order to have that realization, you have to have that mindset shift. But like you said, and like you were stuck in that victim mentality. I lived in victim mentality and I couldn't break out from it until I realized through, books like Extreme Ownership and a few other ones, like this is everything is in my control. And if it's not, then it's not. You know what I'm saying? Like the car that my man wrecked in, bro, that was something that was out of your control. It happened. It can't be changed now. You know what I mean? And so to move on and get past that now to do for so many others is extremely important. But it is a mindset shift. All of it is. So what else though? I mean, let's talk about like the dive that you take with other people and how to get them into the right spots.
All right. So we'll always talk mindset, of course, because mindset's the beginning. But then it's like gain clarity. What do you really want? What do you really want your legacy to be about? Like you talk first. I don't know how the hell you remembered that Zig Ziglar quote. Like that's amazing. Like you said words I didn't even know existed in it. I was like, holy shit. Like that's a good quote. Like I'm going to quote you quoting him because it was so impressive that you remembered it. I'm not going to remember it, but I'll just play the recording anytime I need it. But that was dope as shit. I was just like, dang, this dude's rocking me with quotes right now. And so to me, it's like, let's gain real clarity. What do we truly want, right? For so long, it's like you said, if you don't know what you want for the day, how's today going to be successful, right?
Right.
If you don't know what the future you wants to be, how are you going to do things to get you there?
And how are you going to know what not to do? Right. Like,
Oh,
yeah, all those things.
Second
right.
most important thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's like knowing who you're for, knowing who you're not for.
Right.
The second most important thing.
Yeah.
I'm for them. I'm not for people that do this. Right.
Yes, sir.
Right. Like you kick kids down steps. I'm probably not your person. Right. Like,
Yeah.
Unless it's my daughter and I put you up to it first, then we're okay. But I'll act like I didn't know. But it's like it's those things. It's like let's gain real clarity, right? And my thing is, we talk about the why a lot, and the why is huge. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking the why, but to me, I want to get behind that. Why is that important? Like, why is that why important to you?
Right.
Like, why is that really your thing? Right. So it's like, dude, I want to get this job so I can get this raise. All right. Well, why do you want the raise? Right. And then
you keep asking that question until you don't have an answer for it. Yeah.
Right. So you just can't logically tell me. It's something you got to feel, because even the raise, we want it for so we can get this or provide this. Why?
Yeah.
And it's at the end of the day, we're always trying to fill a feeling, right?
Yeah.
Like, I want to feel accomplished, right? So the people that believe in me can see that I made it, right? Like, why do I fight so hard not to get in trouble every day? Right? It's because the people that did not give up on me, the people that kept fighting for me,
Yeah.
I could say, hey, you picked right? Like, tell everybody when they called you stupid for being around me and for supporting me and believing in me that we made it.
Right.
Right. It's like, why do I want to fight harder and harder? Why do I think it's important for people to live their masterpiece, right? And create that thing? It's because life without that is meaningless. Right. And what life do you want to have? I don't want to have a meaningless life. Right. Like, at the end of this, I want it to matter. I want it to mean something.
Yeah. We've had somebody on this podcast that brought up the life unlived. Right? Like what was possible in your life that you just didn't do? Like, you know what I mean? At the end of it, like, if you could look back and say, wow, these were all the alternatives that I could have had, and I didn't do it. Could you imagine? And so, yeah, to having that just that specific direction, that absolute clarity, man, it is huge. But going back to what you're talking about with the why, you know, I'll shout out Zach Babcock, because he really made me kind of like rethink that. Why are we starting with why, right? And it is amazing, because if you really think about it, right, if why is the most important thing, right, then really it should be a blanketed thing for everyone, right? Because if you're starting with why, then it should be the same why for everyone. It's not, though. We know that because each person is different.
Right.
And therefore, if each person is different, we have to start with identity first, right? We have to start with the who, like, who am I, right? Before why am I, you know what I mean? And so I really like that. I was a big, I am still a big Simon Sinek fan, because I think the why is extremely important, not just as an individual, but in a business. Like, being able to translate that why to your team is huge, right? Because otherwise they don't know why they're doing the day-to-day shit if you don't know what you're actually headed towards 100%. Long term. So, but I do believe that, you know, if we don't start with the who we are, and we don't start with identity, then we're not going to grab a hold of the true passion and the true why behind us.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So mine is like, we always have identifiers, right? It's like the who, what, why. Like, there's one of those you got to start with, right? Like, what are you about? What are you for? Right? Like, it's like anytime you start a business, right? What do you do? Who has that problem? Or who do you care about helping?
Yep.
What can you do to help them? Right? It's like, I feel like those questions, you got to be able to identify one of them, or we're in a bad spot.
Yeah.
Right? And then if you can identify one, we can roll to the others.
Yes.
Right? Yep. So it's like me, it's like, I'm not going to argue chicken egg stuff that, like, I'm like, I don't care enough to do that, to have that argument. My thing is like, we got to get to the bottom of one of these and understand the core of it, or we're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Right. So it's identifying the core, and then you can figure out how you go around that. It's like me, like, you know, at the end of the day, I want to end suicide and self-injurious behavior. That's what I want to end. Right. Yep. But if I'm like, yo, I have this business, I want to end suicide and self-injurious, people will be like, what the hell is this dude talking about? Right. Like, this dude's a clown. Right. So I'm like, all right, that's what I really want to do. How can I do that?
That is really interesting.
Who can I do that for? Right? Why does this matter to me? Like, why is this important to me to do this? Right? Like, so then I can start, when I start with that one, then I can kind of snowball into the other things I want to do and make it make sense, at least, so then people come a little closer.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you're right. Like I could have, with my business, I could have just said, hey, listen, this is why we want to do it all. It wasn't going to help and wasn't going to make any sense to my customers, but I've been able to show them why we're doing it over the time. And I might not have, came out and talked about it, but they saw it. You know what I mean? And I think that that's something that just comes later. Like there is a step-by-step process for all of this.
Right.
So anyway, all right, let's get back into Unleash You Now. I want to talk a little bit more about that. How long have you guys been doing? How long has Unleash You Now been operational?
So Unleash You Now took the place of CMF.
Okay.
About 4 years ago now, 3 years ago.
Okay, so how long altogether have you been doing?
11 years.
11
Ever
years.
since when my boy died and I came back, that's when we were like, let's roll. We got things to do.
Nice,
I gotta
nice.
catch up.
And so when we met and we were on our Zoom call, figuring out that he was right down the damn road.
Yeah, 30 minutes away.
You guys were setting up and getting ready facility.
retreat,
Is it a facility that you guys were still getting ready over there? And that's your place, right?
Yeah,
So just talk about that a little bit.
So I had these like pole buildings that were like, we just stored equipment and furniture and things in it that we had, right? And so we were doing this event. And we did it in November, but November we had great weather here, right?
Right, yeah.
So it's like 60, 65.
Yeah.
And I'm like, perfect. Because with COVID, we couldn't go in tight spaces because everybody would be like, oh, God, we're all going to die. And the idea was, all right, so we have this big-ass arena. And I'm like, we'll go in the arena one day because we go to headquarters one day. And then the next day we're at a conference hall in a hotel. So I'm like, all right, we'll go to the arena. Well, we're in the arena, and one person's like, I think it's a little chilly in here.
Oh, shit.
I don't know if I could withstand this chill. First, I'm like, you're using language I don't even talk. So I don't
Withstand?
Yeah. I'm like, are we going to freeze to death? Like, you got to tell me something because I'm not smart enough to know. And so one of the other guys, AJ, was like, Mike, we have to over deliver, please everyone. I'm like, when you try to please everyone, you please no one.
Yes.
Right. So I'm like, all right. So now a couple of my guys are there. So I'm like, yo, we got to clean out this whole room and put chairs in here because we're going to move everyone over here because this is temperature control. So they're like, great, right? So now I have like 5 of us just throwing our stuff out of this room. And we set up this room. It's way too tight for everybody too, right? So it's like, I'm like, and the best is before that, I'm like, I take everybody's health into consideration.
Yeah.
I care about every single one of you. So put a sticker on, green, yellow, or red. And that determines how close you want to be to people and if you want people with their mask on or not.
Shit.
Green means go, freeload, we're good, we're rocking. Yellow means, just don't hug me or get too close.
Yeah.
Right? And red means get your mask on and get away from me.
Yeah.
All right? And so I'm like, we really care, right? And then like literally hours later, I'm like, everybody get in the sardine can, right? We need this to be a little warmer for this
just
one
switch
person.
stickers randomly.
Yeah, everybody had green on, right? No, so it was funny. In my head, I was like, people are going to call me on this shit, right? But so we jumped in this room, and I was just like, all right. And then they're like, we need to do another one in February. And I was like, if we thought this was cold, February's colder.
Yeah, damn right.
So we took one of the storage, and we just took everything out, finished it. All right, I should have called you guys.
Yeah,
finished it, right?
It's all good.
I cursed a bunch of names doing it because I hate it, right? Like it's torturous to me. So we cleaned it all out, staged it, made it a lot bigger so everybody can be in it, be comfortable, be a lot of room. It did give me an excuse to get a bigger TV and put it in there and make it where I can hang out in there secretly away from people if I need be.
There's always an excuse to get a bigger TV, by the way, because it's bigger.
I agree. Thank you.
I just want to make sure that's out there so that everybody knows.
Use that from now on. I'm like, well, it's bigger. All right. But you know what's funny is something you said earlier. You said, if I said my why, it'd be real weird to people, right? Like it'd be weird to customers.
Right.
And it's funny. It's like, I could tell you care about the young, right? The youth, right? And you want to help them. You want to make sure they don't make the same mistakes we did, right? Mm-hmm. And it's funny. It's like, because everything you do aligns with that though, right? It's like you build homes so people have better homes so they can be around and not be in situations we were in, right? It's like everything you do, you somehow put back into that, that opportunity, into helping those people, the people that like make your heart leap. Yeah,
I try to batch like my efforts as much as I can. So because we only have so much time, right? So like if I can, have a roofing company and help Habitat for Humanity through it, you know what I mean? It makes sense.
But even the customers, like you're building a better place for them. You're making it, it's like everything, it's like, it's so weird when you see someone's heart, right? When you really figure out like their identity, then all of a sudden everything they do kind of makes sense. You're like, I get it. Like even your podcast, you're helping people, just speaking to people. Yeah, right. Man. So it's because everything you do. I
got enough bumps along the way my damn self. You know what I mean? And honestly, like when I first started the podcast, I was like, look, I'm not going to be some cocky know-it-all. I'm gonna bring on people that are teaching all of us. You know what I mean?
We're gonna cocky know-it-alls.
I'm gonna bring the cocky know-it-alls here, and then we're gonna let them teach all of us.
Now I know what you think of me.
I didn't say cocky asshole. No, I'm just kidding.
It's funny. I was like, my last Facebook post was, I'm like, when someone calls me an asshole, I get this warm feeling and nice smile on because I know my job here is done.
That's great. That's great, man. That's what it's all about. But yeah, you're right, because like, I wanted to make sure that I used the vehicle that we had to contribute in ways that I wanted to be able to contribute. But I also realized along the way that my time was, again, like it's my most important unit of currency that I have. Like I need to make sure that if I'm doing something that I'm keeping my, my other efforts in parallel with my current efforts. Right. So that was extremely important to me, but I want people to learn through here, right? As they're starting their podcasts or they're starting their businesses or whatever, that, there's a lot of people that are doing this a lot more than they think, and they're winning. Like people are out here winning in business all the time. Right. And, when it comes to like the stuff that I'm doing today, I oftentimes am like, man, this is a lot easier than I actually thought it was going to be. Now, of course, there's a lot of foundational work I put in place to get me to this point, but at the same time, still, it was a lot easier. So if I can translate that to some of these people, man, I want them to take this journey too. Right. You know what I mean? I want to get them on this journey of the extra mile and keep rocking. So, so yeah, man, it's
you said something so great there, right? The journey, right? I think so much often we notice what we want, that mountaintop, that thing, right? I forget who said this. Might have been Simon Sinek. All right, I try to give credit. I don't have an original thought. Everything I say, someone else said. Just let's start.
Yeah, right. But that's how this is. Yeah.
So the idea is like, at the top of this mountain, we see the thing we want.
Right.
Right. And we're like, hell yeah. And then we don't see the mountain. Right. And we miss the journey part. And the problem with that is when you're on your journey, that's when you learn the skill. Right. Like that's when we develop these things that we do. That's why when we first started, I had a restaurant and bar. Well, I had that skill. I could pour a drink.
Right. And I can drink a drink.
Yeah, they're right. I could definitely drink it better. You saw. You were like, you're such a mess. You left me with a drink. No, I'm kidding. But it's like I could pour a drink. I could make some food, right? I can cook like a mug. I got in trouble a lot. My mom cooked, right? So I would try to hide near my mom so my dad didn't whoop me.
Yeah.
And so I could see cooking. I'm like, all right, I can learn this, right? Like I can cook, right? So I could cook like a mug and I could pour a drink. That was my skill set. That's what I had.
Yeah.
But as I continued that journey, now I was in business. That's what I had to do. I had to learn business things, right? Like I had to learn how to make offers, how to attract people, how to market, right? Like I had to learn these things. So then you start learning that and you're like, oh, okay, I can help in this.
Right.
Right. And then you start, I dove into this area, right? Like the personal development, personal growth field. I dove into that. Then I started learning things. I was like, I can help people this way. All right. So it's as you go down your journey, right? Like we're looking at, this might be so hard. But as you go if you're willing to take the journey, you're going to learn the things that at the end, you're going to be like, this wasn't that hard because I did all the things that I had to do to learn this. And if we try to bypass that, we're going to miss that skill set. And that's when we have those big hiccups, those big hurts, right? Like the, destroying businesses that were 6 or 7 figures is because we tried to hurdle something. We did not yet do the journey enough to be able to hurdle.
Yeah, I like that too, because there are those obstacles that are going to come, and if you're not prepared for them, you're going to smack into them. But in addition to that, in addition to the obstacles and smacking those things, which by the way, that's inevitable. If you're going to start a business, just know that you're going to smack into some shit. Okay. But at the same time, there's also something that, we don't talk about enough, I don't think, as entrepreneurs, and that's complacency. And it's about like not just complacency in general, because sometimes like you can experience complacency and it, right? But there's other times where you experience complacency in business and it's unconscious. Like it's something that you don't even know is happening. And so there's this like, it's called incompetent, trying to think of it.
I've been called that a couple times.
Yeah, no, it's like, it's like unconscious competence and then conscious incompetence. So it's like this square that you actually go through as a business owner. And not everybody does, because some people are on the front side of that, have learned it, have been taught that. But a lot of us go through this cycle of competent consciousness, or what did I say? Competent complacency. I can't even remember it, but I'm gonna get it, and I'm gonna put the image on the screen for this part, because it is, dude. It's a cycle. And so anyway, I'm gonna go back to the complacency part. As a business owner, like you can get into this spot of complacency, and that's where like embracing your why, your vision, and your goals daily is what's gonna push you past that. Right. If you get stuck to a point where like, okay, you're experiencing some success, and then you just like let that shit ride. I've done that. It doesn't continue, bro. Like I did that with my business, and I realized like while my business still ran, it didn't grow. Right. And so it wasn't to a point where I could walk away yet, so I had to go back and kind of work on that and get it to a point where it was. Now we're going to dive a little deeper into like tactics for some of these business owners. And I know an expert when I see one on certain things. So we're going to talk about not just like I want us to drop some bombs for the people on this that are listening about like some strategies in business. A lot of people when they're starting businesses, they want to get all the stars aligned, right? They want to get everything perfect before they. I know, bro. It just doesn't exist. So let's talk about that part, right? Let's talk about the stars aligning or launching, right? And then we're gonna get into some sales conversation too.
Right.
Yeah.
So first, you said something that was fantastic. You said business is going to kick your ass, right? Like, let's be very real. Life's going to kick our ass, right? Like, we know life's going to hit us, right? Like that Rocky Balboa shit, right? Like nothing hits harder than life. So the point isn't like, can we dodge that? Because we're not going to be able to. I tried to dodge that shit all the time. It didn't work, right? It's can we hit back? Like, how are we hitting back? Like, that's something we don't talk about enough, right? Like, life's going to kick our ass. Like, we all went through some horrible shit in our mind, right?
Yeah.
Like in our life. And that's going to come. Like, life's guaranteeing us that. That's the ante of playing the game, right? Let's pretend like it's poker. We got to put the chips into play. So that's our chips. What do we do? Like, are you going to hit back with that kind of impact? How are you hitting back, right? Like, how are you making it worth it? Because fuck fair. Fair doesn't exist.
Fair does not exist.
Right? That's fair is some bullshit we make up in our head, right? Like, that wasn't fair. Look at him the way he's looking at me. It's not fair, right? No. So it's like, it's fair as we create that shit. We like make it up and we're like, it shouldn't have happened this way. It's not fair. But really what we're saying is like, is it worth it? Right? Is it worth it? And if it's not worth it, get the fuck out, right? And if it's worth it, keep going. Or make sure it's worth it, right? Like my thing was, I was going to make sure this new part was worth it, right? Like all the other parts I did, stupid shit, right? This part, no, it's going to be fucking worth it. So at the end, when I have to look, I'm going to be like, well, fuck yeah. At least one part, I got it right? Like in my mind. So is that something like, let's stop trying to talk about things that aren't going to be real and let's talk about things that are going to be real. So make it worth it. Make your business worth it. Make your life worth it. Make your relationships worth it. Make that shit worth it. Right? There was so long I wanted to be the coolest guy at a party once where like 400 people were at. You know, I can't even tell you 400 people's names other than if I said like there's a bunch of Michaels out there, unless you let me count that. But I can't identify 400 people and be like, I'm really cool with them. I want to party. Right. So really then it was like, that was this dumb shit. I was just doing something for an image, not for something for meaning. Yeah. And was that party worth it? Fuck no. Yeah. Right. Because then it's like, I'm cooler, like us hanging out in this room, just talking shit like that. Right. That's awesome. Yep. Like I dig that better than a party with 400 people. 100%. Now, because what I'm about is that. Right. Before I was trying to fill something that wasn't real. Yeah. It's a problem when you do that. So, and then so now we want to talk about the strategy of what? Because I talked so much shit, I forgot.
No, it's all right. I was really mainly talking about that launching point. Like stop trying to align the stars, right? Now. Yeah. Launch now. Like that kind of thing.
Right. It's like they say, like, I think you said this to me. But someone else said it too, because you are really good with naming names. I'm horrible with it. Right? So clearly, good. I told you now I don't even know 400 names. Right? So you said like jump and build wings on the way down, right?
Oh shit! No, I didn't say I love that.
Yeah, it's like you jump, you go, and then you find your way to build wings.
Yeah.
And like for so long, I was like, no, you got to build this perfect thing. Right. And here's the deal: we don't know the weather, right? And so we don't know the weather of business. Like 2008, people that had really good businesses got destroyed. Yep. You know how many, like, you were around, like, people got destroyed
100%,
in 08, 07, 08, 09. There was people I knew that were killing it. I was nothing to them. They got destroyed, right? And I was just sitting here like, how the hell am I still here, right? Keep going, right? So we don't know what the weather's going to be like in business, but we do know what happens if we don't go. We don't. It doesn't exist, right? Like, we know that. So we have a chance if we go for it. Yep. We have no chance if we don't.
100%.
Right? So if I really care about making it for my people and doing my thing, I got to go.
I love that, dude. When I first started my business, I was told like, what if it doesn't work? And my answer back to them was, what if it does work? Right? Like, why are we not asking that question enough?
I love that.
Yeah. So, oh my God, man, you said so many things that, all right. So I love the whole jump and build the wings on the way down. But I had a lady call me this today and ask me for advice on how to, so I'm like, okay, what is it that you're selling? Like, we got to get to that point, right? Because I'm like, I want to help you, but like imagine the perfect version of you, Mike. Like just imagine that perfect version, right? Like if you were at that perfect version of yourself, then you'd have a different version of your perfect self. Right. You're never going to be perfect in general. Our business, we're never going to be perfect. So trying to wait until everything's perfect means you are trying to avoid doing it.
Damn right.
right?
I didn't know why you had to use me as your example. But yeah, I get it. No, you're right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
your perfect self.
Yeah.
You don't have them. Like, damn. But
well, that's
true.
the thing though. Like,
True.
so I've told this story before, but like when I was released from prison, I created this, what I thought was the perfect, like my self ideal, my ideal self.
I love that.
And I painted this picture of what I thought that person looked like. That's how I ended up in the damn suit and walking around trying to get jobs.
Hey,
So yeah. So for some reason, the perfect version of me wore a suit at that time. But as you can see, I don't wear suits often, so that changes. But my whole point is, like, if you set that expectation, right? If you say, okay, I'm going to wait until everything's perfect before I actually launch and do this, you're just telling yourself that you're never going to do it, because you know you're never going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. I went out and knocked on doors and sold roofing before I even had a business card. Like,
Nice.
bro, I'm
it.
telling you right now, you're ready. You're more ready than you think you are. All right, let's go back into sales though.
Right.
So many people, right? They let their insecurities stop them from being rock star salespeople. So many people, the same reason why that party to you was filling a void that wasn't healthy, right? Like, you wanted to be liked because you probably didn't like yourself enough in that situation. So people with that self-love, self-confidence issue deal with this rejection issue in sales so often, right?
100%.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about how we can help people step out of their bubble and get into a selling situation. So let's talk about sales.
I'm going to be like the worst podcast guest of all time, because every time you say something and you ask a question after, I'm like, but what you said was so dope and we don't think about it. So I really want to say something you just said because it's so dope.
Listen, let's rock, bro.
Right? So you said, in business, right? We talk about our ideal customer, but we don't talk about our ideal self, right? And think about how fucking like just powerful that is. Like, that your ideal self, your first thing is fighting for your ideal self, because the better you are, the better you can fight for your ideal customer.
100%.
But we never talk about that shit.
Yeah,
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just like, damn. Right. Like, I'm going to add to, like, I'm adding to our course tonight just because of this conversation.
Yeah, that is dope. Like, yeah, and it's deep too, because it just snowballs. Because, you know, I talk about all the time how, like, if you don't believe you're the very best at what you're doing, then quit. Because like, why else would you push it? Why would you go knock on that fucking door?
Right.
Like, you know, you don't even believe in your own damn product and what you're offering. So at the end of the day, of course, you're going to have these insecurities. Of course, you're going to have fear of rejection. But if you are 100% in love with what you're offering and what you do and how you do it, then you're going to get to a place where you owe it to them to go out there and knock on that damn door. Right. And that's a powerful place to be in.
Damn right. And listen, that's hilarious you say that, because I think some of my team is listening, and hopefully they do, because like I got people that, and I'm sure you do, right, that are just badasses in their space, like their area of genius. They're just freaking badasses at it, right? And I'm like, go do you, right? Like, you got this, right? Like, you're a badass in this thing, right? So whatever this thing is, right? And it's like, and then they're like, well, I don't know, like, what am I gonna do? I'm like, no, stop. Like, you got to know what you're gonna do. Like, listen, it's like when you talk with people, right? They could know more, they could do more. Like, good luck, right? Like, because I'm still good at the grind mode, right? So I'm still gonna out-grind most, right? I welcome a good challenge in the grind area, but it's like, people I know, when I walk in a room, people are gonna be smarter than me, right? Like, I didn't go to any. Like,
I hope so, right? Yeah.
I went to school for like 18 years and didn't get a degree, right? Like, it's like, Jesus, what was I doing, right? So it's like, I know they're gonna be smarter than me, but that doesn't mean. Being smarter and being able to implement knowledge is not the same thing, right? Being able to recite, my daughter gets straight A+, right? Like, it's ridiculously annoying because I didn't get straight A+, right? So just like, Dad, you ever get a report card like this? I'm like, go the hell away, right? Like, just saying, kid.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not, but now, common sense, shit. I got to save my daughter's life every day from like toothbrush and shit, right? Like, it's crazy. So I'm like, how do you get straight A's? Every day I think I say that. How do you get straight A's?
Oh my God.
Right?
I feel like you're explaining my daughter right now.
But it's like, so it's not just what you know, it's implementing, right? So here's like, we work extremely hard at, you might know more than me, but I can teach in a way and implement and show that you might not be able to.
Yes.
And that's going to be my strength. That's where I'm going to rely on. Right? Because you can there's people and you know, in Clubhouse, happens all the time. People get fluff, like that's some bullshit, theoretical, like some crazy out there answer. Some dude came in a room. I'm going to call some people out. Some dude came in a room and was like, I really want help on scaling my membership. Right? He said, I have a closed membership. I really want help on being able to get more people in. I have it about a year. I have like 114 people in. I was like, wow, that's a pretty good membership for a year, right? Like I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, that's cool, right? So I'm like, I'm trying to ask questions, like feeler questions. I'm like, so how do you do your membership? He's like, it's closed. I bring people in every 3 months. I'm like, all right, cool. What was the last time? And he was like 50. He's like, before that I brought 30. And I'm like, oh my God, so you're on a roll, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you brought in like almost 80% of your people in the last 2 launches, like last 6 months. That's beautiful, right? Like you're on the right. So we can take that now. How can we automate that? Right? Because that makes sense because you can only do so many yourself.
Right.
How can we take that,
Scale
get more people in, build that wait list, and then just hit them with that webinar, hit them with the webinar that brought them in. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to answer this guy's question. And someone's like, Mike, stop, right? Let me talk to him because I know the real problem. I'm like, oh shit. All right, cool. All right. And they're like, that's that scarcity mindset. I'm like, what? Right? Like, what? It's scarcity mindset. That's why you have a closed membership. And I'm like, oh no, do you have a membership? Because you have a closed membership because you want to, what we know about memberships, right? Someone joins, and if you can keep them the first 2 months, you keep them forever. Because people are going to stop checking. How many memberships are you part of that you really don't use? Right.
Too many.
That just get billed on your shit, and you're like, $5.99 from ESPN. What the hell do I get charged every month? $5.99 for ESPN.
Because that one fight that I had to stream years ago, and I paid for the app.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm like, what the hell? Like, but I'm part of memberships. Like, there's a cologne sent to my house. I don't even really wear cologne much. There's a cologne sent to my house every 30 days. I don't even know how to cancel that thing, right? Like, I'm just like, who sends this?
Yeah.
Right? I think it's like an evil joke from a friend, right?
The
like
30-day cologne club.
Yeah, right? Like, you get a cologne sent to you every month. I'm like, is someone trying to tell me I smell this? I should shower more? Like, I don't understand.
That was a gift. Fine,
right?
I'm canceling it now, buddy.
Right?
No,
yeah.
I'm
So first that answer happens, I'm like, well, I don't see this. I think you're going way too far in this one. The next dude goes, you need to meditate.
Oh my God.
So let's do a meditation now. And went off on a meditation in a room, a clubhouse room with over 100 people. What are you doing? Right? And we did a 5-minute meditation where I was just sitting there with the mute button, screaming every curse word I could. Right?
You were not meditating. You were.
Right?
Yeah.
I should have been listening. Really, is what I was saying. But
he was medicating.
then later, right? Then later, the best is later. I have a drink in between. Right? But later, I think I hit the mute button. I don't hit the mute button, and I'm making something in the background. And I'm like, here we go again with this dumb mother. And they're like, please mute
Needless
your mic.
to say, Mike can no longer meditate anymore.
They don't let me in that room. And that dude finally stayed in the room with me that I said that to like yesterday. So I was like, all right, good.
Stuff.
At least we're getting over this.
Yeah.
But I like that you said that. It's like, there's a lot of crazy things being told to people out there for people trying to take that want to be like something in a space. So really be careful what we digest, right? Take in everything, but don't use everything, right? Like that. Yeah. Like don't be closed-minded to things, but don't think everything's for you. Yeah. I think that's a big thing.
Man, that reminds me so much of, what was the guy's name that everybody compares George Orwell to? What was his name? Huntley? Where George Orwell was like, I'm like, the future is going to be us withholding information from the public, and that's what's going to be our demise. Well, Huntley, I think it was Huntley, and he was like, no, the future is going to be an overwhelming amount of information that you are not going to be able to filter out the truth from bullshit. And that's where we're living right now, because you're absolutely right, man. I'm sitting here listening to people, and I look, major respect to a lot of people in Clubhouse, because what we're having is, in the mix in Clubhouse, which is kind of controversial, is that we've got these really high-level entrepreneurs, which are crushing it, right? That have built these, major like marketing campaigns and spent tons of money in ad spend and have built out these funnels that are creating and converting, right? That's great. The problem is how many of you have knocked on doors? Like, how many of you have cold called and sold something, right? Because that's where the rubber meets the road. Like, listen, how many times has somebody, look, we got 5 people in this room. How many of you have gotten a call about your car's extended warranty? When's the last time you've seen a funnel about your car's extended warranty, right? Like, it still takes a person most of the time to process a transaction. So at the end of the day, there is still going to be a person involved in the closing and the sale of the item or the service or the product, right? So if that's the case, like, there's not enough emphasis put on the action and the hustle that you just talked about as one of your strengths. And at the end of the day, if action is the key to success, which I truly believe it is, it doesn't matter how good and methodical you are, how great you are at putting together a strategy. If somebody's not putting that fucking work in, it is not going to function, right? 100%. So there are high-level entrepreneurs that have won strictly off of hustle. Like literally, you probably could have put a blindfold on them and they still would have had the success. They didn't have the vision, the strategy, or even sometimes the goals, but they worked their ass off, and as a result, they're successful. So how then do we take? All right, so let's go back to sales itself. We went into it.
I told you I'm horrible at this.
we went into it. No, dude, this is great conversation.
I'm like a horrible guest.
This is why I do not script this shit. We can't give you gold if we script it. So all right, so let's go back to sales, because like for me, I love this part of the process, but I need people that are listening to understand that, like, when you are selling, right, be proud of what you're offering. And again, I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier. If you're not offering the best, quit and go work for the freaking company that does, like right away. And if you're the business owner that's not offering the best as a strategy, shame on you too, because like if you're putting your salespeople in a position to want to quit and go work for the company that's offering the best, you are not setting yourself up for success either. So when you have that belief and you truly know that you're offering the best and the best service, you can go after it with pride. Now let's talk about that. Let's talk about value, right? Let's talk about pricing. Let's talk about those things. Give us some nuggets here.
So it's funny. I'm going to go off on something. So how do you create belief, right? You said believe you're doing it. How do we create that? We create that by hammering that sword 1,000, right? Just perfecting our craft. It's like we have, I'm sure you have the same thing. You have offers that sell every time, right? Like they're good offers. They sell every time. And you're still trying to make them better.
Yeah.
Right. Because
it's never going to be perfect.
Right. And that's where your belief comes from. It's like, listen, I know, like, you threw this together and made a Saturday night funnel. Cool. Right? I've been doing this and mastering this offer, so I know the value in which they get, and I know how we're going to over-deliver the crap out of this thing to get to the next level of us. Yeah. Right? Because we're going to deliver so heavy in this area, they're going to be like, well, we want more.
Yep.
Right? It's like, you have a slice of pizza, that shit's good. Give me a tray, right? Like, give me a pie. You're not like, that slice of pizza was awful. Can I have a whole pie? No one says that, right? So it's like, if I perfect this craft and make this one slice freaking amazing, I'm going to sell a pie. If that pie is really good, when they have friends over and they don't want to cook for them, they're going to come buy 2 pies from me, right? And I'm going to keep walking these people up with me, right? Because I'm perfecting this thing that can serve and fill what they're trying to fill, right?
Right.
So it's like sales, right? So I'm a little nerdy when it comes to sales, just so you know, right? Like,
that's why we're talking about it, my friend.
I'm more the mental aspect, right? Like, everybody talks about know the pain. Like, it's someone I really like too on Clubhouse. We had like this little back and forth of not agreeing. And they were like, you have to know their why to sell them. And I was like, no.
What?
So she was like, let me show you an example. And she said why she worked so hard. And she was like, she wanted her own money. She wanted security. She didn't want her husband to dictate what she could buy, right? In case it went south, she wanted to have this, right? Like, there was one thing after another, why she wanted her own money. And I was like, so for someone to resonate enough with you to get them to purchase from, they had to put in their copy 6 different whys to just get you. I'm like, do you hear how silly that sounds? I'm like, what you said was key. At one point, you said, I wanted security. So now if I could write my copy, if I can get you to feel that right now you're feeling insecure, that's why you need security. And by signing this with me, you're going to get that security, that feeling, right? Like that we talked about earlier, understanding feeling. Then everybody that's insecure that wants security is going to buy this from me, because I'm talking about the insecurity you feel now, how this worked for me to make me feel super secure. And this is then logically, how does it do that? It creates a passive income so you have a bank account. It creates money coming in monthly so you know you have something no matter what happens and what life throws at you, you can eat, right? Like, it does all these different things. That's the logical part. But we know people only buy logically 20 to 25% of the time.
Right.
So
buy
why
with emotions.
Right. So why am I going to spend all my time doing something where only 20 to 25% people are going to buy? So I'm going to spend 70+% of the time people buy emotionally. I'm going to spend my time understanding emotional triggers, understanding what the emotional trail is, the journey. I go from this feeling to this feeling to this feeling, right? I'm going to understand that. And I'm going to start using that and making them feel that, right? In everything I write, say, and do. Because it's because I'm not being a scumbag. It's because I truly believe we get you from feeling this to feeling this, right? That's our journey, right? Like everybody we talk to, and then it's like next up, like, I don't know how nerdy you want to get here. So then it's like next step, right? Everybody's going through, every customer has this customer journey. And it's like, it's 4 parts, I think. And it's 1, they're in the pain or problem.
Yes.
So what is the pain or problem? That's the logical side. How do you fix that? How do you solve it, right? That's logical. Then it's underneath, the feeling. What feeling are they in? What feeling do they get when they sign with you? What feeling do they receive when they're done with you, right? How can I portray this in my copy, in my messaging? How do I get them through this journey together? Because that's going to trigger them to be like, but here's the deal. We don't like to be emotional creatures, even though we are.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Like, we don't want to say you hurt me, right?
Yeah.
I want to say you're not going to annoy the shit out of me. right?
Yeah.
Like, cause that's better, right?
Yeah.
It's more logical. All right. So we have to make it where they see the logic part. Cause when they tell their person or people, why'd you buy this? Oh my God, you don't understand. All right. It just got me so much further in my business. Right.
Right.
Even though it made me feel like I had the foundation to build a business on. It gave me safety. It gave me security. It gave me belief. It gave me that thing that I was searching. Right. But I'm going to tell you that my sales increased 100%. Right. It's like, and listen, we're guilty of this too. What is like my number one viewed review? Right. My number one review is, that's a horrible way of saying it. I got to think of a better way. Yeah. But is Spencer saying, hey, in 1 month, he made me double my income for the whole year. And it was the month of October. So he had like 9 previous months. And in 1 month of working together, he doubled his profits for the other 9 months. Why is that my number one thing? Because it's the number one logical trigger to make me go, all right, I can do this.
Yeah, I want to buy from you right now, right, just based off of the review.
Well, that's what I did this morning, right? Like, so the idea was like that review is the most viewed or sought after review people ask for because they want to see someone else did it because I'm not just blowing smoke up their ass.
Right.
Right. They want to see and make it where it's logical. It makes sense to them. Yeah. I seen it done. I saw it. I literally talked to the person. Yeah. Right. And Spencer's still involved in pretty much everything we do. So people still see him around like, damn, this dude's still around this guy, even though that happened. Right. And it's so how can we create that feeling, get that feeling across to everybody, let them walk through that journey. So they're in the pain or problem. Next part, running from the 3 Ps, right? Pains, problems, and past. We want to get away from them, right? I got to Delaware because of it, right? It's like, get me away from that shit, right? And then after that phase, we run towards 3 Ds, dreams, desires, and destinations. We want to get somewhere. Now I'm focused on something, right? Like now in our life, we're focused. Like we're going towards some shit.
Yeah.
Right? We're not running away from stuff anymore. Yeah. Like, we're here now.
Running towards something.
Yeah, damn right. And then the last one is the state. Where was I trying to get? What was I trying to get into? Right? Like I want to impact 1 billion people because I believe by then I can end suicide and end self-injurious behavior. Right? So when I get there, I get into that state, right? Like I'm just there. I'm like, fuck yeah. Right? Like that. People call it the zone. Right? Like when you're in the zone, that's what I call the zone. It's like you're in that state that you were fighting to achieve.
Yeah, man.
And it's like everyone we're talking to, everybody we work with is going through those phases. Where are they? What are they feeling? What are they going through? What keeps them up at night? What wakes them up in the morning? What makes them get out of bed? Or what keeps them in bed? Like that's really identifying your who. It's not like I work with 35-year-old pizza delivery man. It's about figuring out life and work balance. Like that's not real. That's not a real niche, right? Like that's some dumb shit. And there's coaches out there.
That's their ideal customer right there.
There's people out there. The first coach I ever worked with, this is what almost made me like, I was like, fuck it, I can't do this. The first coach I ever worked with, I was telling him a story and he's like, Mike, I figured it out. You love food. And I was like, sure. Right? Like, I feel like
breakthrough.
Yeah. I feel like to a degree, we all love food, right? Like we need it. So, all right. So I was like, all right. He's like, I know who you should work with. I was like, well, that's a weird lead in.
Yeah.
He goes, you should work with literally, this is what he said. 39-year-old, I believe it was 39 or 38-year-olds, Italian restaurant managers that want to create the life through outside of work that they want. I was like, the fuck? Like, I don't want to do that.
Not 39 to 43-year-olds. No, we got to deal with the 39.
One age, dude. And I was just like, what if let's take this back. And what if I just wanted to work with restaurant managers that wanted to find life-work balance? What if that's all I wanted to work with? Right? Like, or people in the restaurant business, because we know the restaurant business is crazy, right? Like, literally, I was working like 10:30 a.m. to 3 a.m. every day at a restaurant. I was like, this sucks, right? Like, I was watching my daughter grow up in the restaurant. I was like, this is crazy, right? And then it burnt down, crazy. So, and I learned a valuable lesson: have good insurance, because I didn't,
and an escape plan,
right? Or a fall guy, something, right? So, it's really understanding our who, like why, like really getting deep in those simple questions we asked. And English teachers used to ask us all the time in essays, and I used to hate it. But I didn't know if you translate those questions to business, if you clearly identify and explain what you do in all those areas, you got a good foundation. You can build some shit.
Good stuff, man. I feel like, I got to hit this button just because this man just went the extra mile on everybody just now, man. He crushed it. So listen, I want to ask a couple other questions. We do have one question that we ask everybody that comes on the show, but I'm going to save that one because I really considered I've considered myself an underdog entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. And I really kind of feel like you're an underdog entrepreneur too, right? Mm-hmm. So I truly believe in a lot of ways we have some advantages. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on this versus somebody who leaves a corporate job or something like that to start a business versus somebody that starts it from the ground up?
Oh, buddy. Listen, I'm yes. Like it's like I can answer it as simple as yes, right? Like I'm huge with the chip on your shoulder thing. Like, it's not the same chip as it was when I was younger.
Right.
But I did fill it with things. Right?
Yeah.
Like I still, some things leave it, some things I put in it. Right. And that's the thing. Like that's why I love it. Right. Like I love seeing someone ahead of me and they're like, I'm ahead of you. I'm like, I love that. Right. Like, cause you don't understand how fuel you give me.
For now.
Yeah. You don't understand the fuel you give me. Right. Because like we were talking about earlier, like there's few I know. I mean, honestly, it's like, I don't want to be cocky, but to outgrind me, to really get, like, to really that, like, that's going to be tough. Like, that's going to be something you got to prove. And if you prove it, cool, I'll give you credit. Like, I'm not a hater. Right. But it's like, to outgrind me, like, I'm going, right? Like, after this, I go back to the office, right? Like, I eat dinner with my kid, I like hang out, whatever, then go back to the office. Like, not even like office in the house. Like, I go back to the office, right? Like, I put in hours upon hours upon hours. So I know at the end, when we battle for it, you're not going to get me because of up here.
Right.
I'm not going to beat me in a battle between us.
No.
Right. Like you
and
can.
if you do, it's not going to be because I didn't give it my all.
Right. It's not because
I
I didn't
gave
put
it
it
my
to the
all,
test.
yeah.
Damn right. It's like, I'll go to the test. Like I like that. That's my thing. So if we can grind on it, like if it's a grind contest, I'm like, I'm cool. Like, let's go. Like, let's whatever it is. Now, if it's like you're trying to paint a portrait, like, oh shit, bro. Like there's some skills I don't got, right? Like,
Right.
So you like, let's see who can paint the prettier picture. Like, oh, you got me. Like this dude's going to do
Doesn't matter
video.
how many strokes I put on his paintbrush. It is not going to be the
not gonna
perfect
happen.
portrait.
So, like, this dude's going to beat me in video, and like this dude's going to beat me in sound. Like, and you're
Right.
going to beat me at this, right?
Yeah.
Because this is what you do. Right. And it's like, now give me enough time. And
Right.
if there's some kind of contest about it, like something that we're going to get
Yeah.
from it, that makes
Put
me
a prize
care.
on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's something we're gaining from this shit. Well, you better keep working because I'm trying to get.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, I think there's a certain thing about that mentality that keeps us always ready for the fight.
100%.
Right. Like we're always in the arena. I'm not taking a day off from the arena.
Yeah, because we have that, like, we have that nothing to lose mentality that I really feel like is so powerful, man. We're going back to what we were talking about earlier, where people are waiting to perfect things before they get started. Like, what? I'm already down here at the bottom now. Like, I've got nothing to lose. I've got nowhere to go but up. I'm going to go and I'm going to put in this work, and we're going to see how this plays out. I love what you said about the chip on your shoulder, because, like, for me, like, even to this point today, like, maybe a lot of what I'm doing is like, hey, listen, man, like, I want to help the people that have the chip on their shoulder. You know what I mean? Like, let me empower you.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? And get you to where, you know, you can be on your full potential. So I love that. I just had to ask you that. We always ask our guests to pinpoint and be as specific as you possibly can about a moment in your life, whether it be on your climb or any other time, where going the extra mile in something paid dividends and kind of was a breakthrough moment for you.
One time? Like, that's tough.
Try to be as specific as possible.
Right? That's tough. Oh, man. I'm going to go with the first person that ever signed up for individual work with me. Right?
Okay.
This is years ago, right? But I'm going to go, there's so many spots. Business-wise, I'm going to take it to this one spot. All right, so they signed up to work with me, and you know, you put your offer on what you're going to give somebody, right? That's not, in my world, that's never all you give them. That's all they know you're giving them. That's why they sign up. They sign up for that. And if they receive that, that'd be satisfactory.
Yeah.
That's some bullshit I don't want. Right? Like, I want to be like, this dude blew my world.
Right.
Right? Like,
you want a raving fan, not a satisfied customer.
I'm creating someone that's going to be with me forever.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's what I'm like. My customer isn't my only customer. Like, my customer is, I'm not their only person they buy from.
No,
right?
and I can tell that earlier you were talking about, like, during, after, you were talking about how they feel this at every point during the process. And I can tell that's exactly what you were kind of alluding to at that time.
Like,
yeah.
I know they're not only going to buy from me, but I know they're always going to buy from me.
Right.
Right? Because the only way they don't is if I disrespect them at some point I don't know about, which I'm going to try really hard not to do, or if I stop selling them.
I love it.
Right? That's the two times. All right? And it's because, and because of this situation where the first client that signed up with me, I something that's now part of our everyday, like not every day, but part of our one-on-one is I go to you, right? Like 10 times throughout the year, I go to where you are, I see your, so I can get a better gauge of everything, to have better intuition, better understanding. And I just showed up randomly at their business. And I just sat there all day, and someone called them and told them I was there. And like, they're like, this dude's here. He's not leaving. Like he's like, just hanging out. Says he knows you. Right. And then they came, and they were like, he was like, what's going on? Like, you didn't say that. I'm like, oh, this was awesome because you weren't in the mix. And I got to see everybody at the level when you're not in the mix. Because everybody, like, when you're in the mix and when you're not in the mix, it's different.
Undercover on them.
Right? Right? And they were just like, you took a whole day to do that? I was like, that's the only way I could serve you, right? Right? Like, my thing is I need results. Because if not, I'm out.
He went undercover.
Right. So it was like, that was one day where I was just like, all right, like when you do things that to you think this is just common to be able to get there,
Right.
they don't see that. If you're willing to do that, that's going to change the game between you two.
Yeah.
And still to this day, they do things with me.
Of course they do, bro. You just brought that up as an example here on this podcast about how you went the extra mile, but you know how many times he's told that story?
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, do you know how many times he's talked about the fact that you showed up undercover to, like, you know what I mean? Yeah, dude, that's extra mile right there. I love that. All right. I'm going to give an opportunity to the people that are in the the clubhouse room. Okay. If any of you guys have any questions, I'll give you guys a few minutes to pop one and ask before we go ahead and close out. Thank you guys, by the way, for hopping on here on Clubhouse. This has been a cool experience, just being able to go live for you guys. But if you have any questions, just raise your hands. We'll bring you up. Otherwise, go ahead.
Can I give some love?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Give some love. And then also I want you to go through how people can follow you on social media as well.
First, let me give love to the Unleashed family.
I love it.
We call ourselves the Unleashed because we're unleashed from all the BS.
Yes, sir.
Right. So they're committed. Right.
Yeah.
Like I would say, like they're the pig. Right. Like they're not the chicken.
Right.
Right. It's like bacon and eggs. Right. That chicken was interested, laid the eggs, walked away.
Yeah.
That pig was committed.
Yeah.
He gave everything for that bacon and eggs.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like
a different situation.
We're always like, be committed. Right. So their commitment to the Unleashed, to pushing the blue and green, our lifestyle, like our community, man, like I'm not worthy of them. Like they're amazing. They're ass kickers out there doing crazy things, and they're always down to support one another and myself. So I always want to give them a shout out and say some love to them because they're killing it.
Spoken like a true damn leader, man. I love that. And it comes through regardless of your words, my man.
Right.
Regardless of your words.
So I appreciate them. You can find me on anything. I'm Michael Fabber, or the coach Mike Fabber, pretty much on every platform. I'm on every platform, unfortunately. And my number, my email, everything's public. Because I always say, like, no one's truly ever alone. You're only alone if you decide you are, right? So for that to be real, I got to make it where you can contact me anytime. So yes, sometimes I have people that prank call me, which is hilarious. And then other times I get real calls that's why I do it for. So you can contact me on any of my stuff. My number, my email, everything is out there. If ever you feel like you're alone, you need some help, you want to talk to somebody, whatever it is, you're not alone. People care. Hit me up.
I love that because I know you mean it too, bro. That's huge. Listen, this has been awesome rocking with you, bro. This whole relationship, like the way we've met, everything about it has been awesome.
Crazy.
Rocking with you last week was cool, and I know it's going to be a lot more ahead of us. So
I got a new brother.
Yes, sir, 100%. All right, so it looks like the people that are on the Clubhouse do not have any questions. Shy. That means you answered everything on the way.
They're shy.
Yeah,
they're shy
so we're good to go. But listen, guys. Thank you all for tuning into the episode 15 of the Xtra Mile Podcast. We are super hyped to be back into season 2, rocking and rolling. And we're going to continue to bring you high caliber guests like my man Mike Fabber here. And I tell you what, too, man, I promise to bring you guys an episode 2 with my man. And for those of you who are listening on audio, you guys got to check out the video, too, to see how long this guy's beard is, man, because it is impressive. All right, guys, we are going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you all. And that is it for the Xtra Mile Podcast.
Your success is on the other side of your comfort zone. See, that's the difference between me and those other guys. I wanted it more than they did. I wanted it enough to get uncomfortable. I wanted it enough to go the extra mile. Do you want it bad enough? Do you want it bad enough to go the extra mile?